Hey everybody, it's Brooke. This is our first voiceover, so be kind. We're going to make a different kind of snippet roll today. I know everybody makes snippet rolls, and I've been obsessed the last couple days with making them because it involves gluing things on other things. So I needed to make a spine for my June Fauxbonichi, and I pulled out this scrap of muslin, marked it where the spine begins and ends. You can certainly make a snippet roll as big or as small as you want. This is my basket of bits from working on my June Fauxbonichi, and I discovered that it's kind of a archaeological dig. You find, or I found anyway, layers of the pieces that I've been using in my Fauxbonichi. This was a book that I tore apart making Patricia Viramonte's pockets, which was a riot. And then there's fabric and lace and paper and just all the leftovers and scraps from doing my faux bow. My hand gestures do not match what I'm saying. Sorry. This is a new one. Voiceover, harder than you thought. So anyway, that's what I grabbed to make this piece of fabric snippet roll for my spine. Yep, still talking about it, I guess. That is pretty exciting stuff right there. Don't you like looking at a basket of my trash? So, back to the piece of muslin. It's, again, I think this was about 15 inches wide and 3 or 4 inches, 15 inches long, 3 or 4 inches wide. It's just what I had laying around. And I am using my Fabrifix. Somebody pointed out to me that Fabrifix is less permanent than Fabri-Tac, and I didn't know that, so I will probably buy Fabri-Tac in the future. But so far, Fabrifix has been just fine and has been holding everything, so this is what I'm going to use on all of the little bits that we're going to patchwork onto the muslin. I am going to grab my Tim Holtz mat, arranger mat, and you can see truly what a pig I am because, yeah, it's kind of messy. And I just thought it was a good idea because the Fabrifix will soak through the fabric, and I didn't want to ruin my cutting mat. And now I'm just messing around again. I don't know what I was doing. So much talking. But I'm pulling out a handful of stuff from my basket, and literally it's just scraps. There's trim, and there's fabric, and there's some canvas, and I know I have some paper scraps as well, just different things I've used in my Fauxbonichi / junk journal in the past month, which was on the top layer. So, like making any snippet roll or crazy quilt or whatever you want to call it, I'm just going to start cutting up pieces and laying them down. No rhyme or reason. I'm not trying to match. This is going to really be a crazy quilt, a quasi quilt sort of experience. And I love how it ends up looking in the end. And I am going to go ahead and ask the old man to speed it up in a minute because I really don't know what I was talking about, and ain't nobody needs to watch anybody cutting and gluing for that long. But that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm just yammering about something and cutting and tearing and gluing fabric and lace, and I pull out some paper in a minute, and a lot of the edges of the paper I end up tearing and inking just because I like the look, no particular reason, and there's really no pattern or anything that I'm following to put this down. It's just what I grab and where I put it. And I love every little bit of it because it reminds me of something. So I keep going, I show you some stuff. That's me tearing, that's me inking, and that would be me gluing. Scintillating, isn't it? But it is really fun and relaxing to do, and it's a great way, again, to use up all your scraps. And you can make this as big as you want. A lot of people make a huge long one and just cut off pieces to use as pockets or tuck spots in their journals, and that's fine too, but I was sort of concentrating on just the length of the spine on my June Fauxbonichi / junk journal. So, yep, still gluing, still oh, that's fiber, still laying stuff down. that fiber ended up gluing me all over. I used the lid of the glue to sort of tap it down, but little bits of fiber kept getting stuck to my fingers, so you will see me compulsively rubbing my fingers together trying to get the glue and fiber off. It was like I had tarred and feathered myself. And, stopping a glue volcano. You always want to make sure to put the lid back on that Fabrifix or Fabri-Tac because it will bubble up very quickly. And here we go. What makes it a memory? Snippet roll. Photos! I took several of my favorite photos from the month and printed them out as little 1x1s. And I'm just cutting them out here. And I was in love with this idea. They're so tiny that you can barely see them, but when I or my family looks at the spine of this book, we'll know what those photos are. They were highlights or lowlights or just something that stood out during the month. And I love the addition on the spine. So I'm now smart enough to turn it around to the correct orientation, making sure everything is going up and down so it will look right on the shelf. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut those little squares out and fit them in kind of like a puzzle. I picked 3 just because uneven numbers generally look more appealing than even numbers. And I'm just, again, cutting them out, laying them down, rearranging some, seeing what I like, and gluing. So much glue, so much gluing. That's the fun part. So those go in. I'm sort of tucking them under some pieces. There goes that top one. And I think, I'm looking at the spine from a book a journal I'd made, and I loved it. It was just the scrap of the spine, and I ended up tearing that up and inking it and putting that on, and I loved how it looked and the colors and what it said, and that just made me happy. And now I'm just filling in some gaps around the photos. That's some vintage trim off of a table runner I took apart. And just plowing through my stuff, seeing what I've got, making some small bits even smaller, and layering, and now I'm kind of framing out the piece, putting something in the opposite direction to make the bottom and the top kind of closed, if that makes any sense. And finding a little more paper, Tim Holtz paper, of course, can't throw that away, and inking it up, tucking it in just to make sure I'm covering up the majority of the muslin. Now I go insane with some more of that extra fuzzy fiber. I don't know what I was thinking, but I do love how it came out. And just kind of pressing everything down, looking through my stuff, deciding if I want to put one more piece on, why not? Can never have enough. Now I'm doing just a little bit of tidying and volcano cleaning so I could see what I was doing. Now it's time to pull out the words. So I pull out my Tim Holtz words and apparently read them like they were a dime store novel. How exciting for you to watch. But I do eventually make a couple decisions. Oh, look, action, clever. So I pulled off a couple of the phrases and inked them up. They ended up being sort of inked all around because they're so tiny. But use the same glue, just pop that down. I'm going to do another phrase up towards the top to balance it out. And I like the different colors and the different tones, and some are inked and some are not. And this is my 3D little tiny pieces box, very much like Jessica Rapp. I've got all kinds of different things that I can cut up or find in bits in this box, and I'm going to pull out a piece of very old measuring tape and look around at some other things. That's a tiny burlap butterfly that I think came from Michael's quite a long time ago, but I love them. I think they're really cute. And I'm thinking really hard, looking at some tiny images I stamped on old book paper, but apparently they don't make the grade. Check out a feather, but sadly that feather is sad. Looks like it came off a molting chicken. Gonna take a pass on that one. Oh, and I know I really wanted to use a tiny bit of old negative, but it was just too dark. I wanted it to work, but it didn't. I don't care too much about matching, but sometimes it's a little over the top. But I did find this stamp that has a creepy guy on it, and I liked it a lot. So I went ahead and put that down too. And pulling out the glue and speeding up, gluing all those different pieces on. Anything goes on a snippet roll. And putting down that butterfly. Doing a little more tidying up, and there you go. This is step 1 of our snippet memory snippet roll thing. Love it. Love how it's coming out. I'm going to take it upstairs now to the sewing machine and crazy stitch all over it. I'm just going to go crazy. So come back for part 2. Hopefully it won't be a voiceover, and I'll ask the nice old man to link it below.